So welcome to this HOWN webinar on doing with, not to, how to involve communities in your anchor work. I'm Julia Slay. I'm a Senior Associate at the Innovation Unit, part of the HOWN team, and really excited to bring to you today two fantastic speakers from Leeds and London who are going to be sharing some of their experience of working with communities, and also hoping to tap into a lot of the expertise and insight that you in the room have. Lots of you will be in anchor organizations doing interesting work, grappling with interesting challenges. So hoping to hear more about that as we go through today. We've just started recording. If you've not been to one of the HOWN events before, then welcome. It's a pleasure to have you here. You may know that we're a free UK-wide network for people who are embedding anchor approaches in their organizations. One of the team, I think, is going to pop a little link in the chat to our newsletter, which is the best place to find out about upcoming events. We run a lot of brilliant webinars like this, where we tap into some of the, pardon me, best practice and exciting work that's going on across the UK. So we have lots of brilliant speakers through our events. We also run kind of more peer learning sessions, and you will find out about all of those if you sign up to the newsletter. And there is a treasure trove of brilliant resources from previous webinars, learning products, learning pathways on the website. So if you're new to the world of anchor work, then please do check out the website. There's a huge amount there that you can draw on to help you on your journey. I'm going to start by framing this session. We've done a lot of work over the years in our learning sets on involving communities in our anchor work. And we've not yet had a kind of big public webinar on it. So really excited that we're bringing some of that insight from the learning sets into this session. And this is what we hear the most in terms of why should we involve communities in our anchor work. You know, the whole premise of being an anchor organization is you have that scale, place-based, long-term, in the place for the long term, and you have really significant assets as an anchor organization that you can use to tackle health inequalities and improve the social determinants of health, with a really big focus on the local economy. So where does the community come into this? And what we hear most often is the wisdom, skills, experience, and assets of local communities is often really complementary to the technical skills and professional skills that we have within an anchor organization. So it's a kind of complementary skill set. What we hear most of the time, which it feels, in fact, the biggest point to really emphasize, is that as anchor organizations, you will make better decisions about local priorities if they're done with, if you're in dialogue with communities and engaging them in that decision-making process. And those decisions will have more local ownership and more legitimacy. So when you're an anchor organization, many anchor organizations we work with find themselves trying to set some strategic priorities for their work. What is it we really want to achieve as an anchor? What are the key things we want to move the dial on? And you can do that internally as an anchor. And, you know, we know lots of statutory organizations are driven by policy directives from central government and local authorities and local NHS structures. But actually, how can we tap into the priorities that communities would put front and center, the things that they know need improving in the local area, the opportunities they see for anchors to contribute towards the local community, the local economy in a different way. So we think we can make better decisions about local priorities with communities. And there's also a very interesting overlap of people who work in anchor organizations and those who are based in local communities. So we know that as anchor organizations, two of the biggest levers that you have are your procurement or your spend and your workforce. Many anchor organizations have huge workforce, sometimes the biggest or one of the top few biggest employers in an area. And many of those employees are also members of the local community. So how does that overlap? What does that overlap offer us in terms of opportunities that it may bring to work more closely with the workforce and the local community? So why should we involve communities in our anchor work? A few thoughts there. And what does best practice look like? I think we're going to hear some fantastic examples today from Althea in London and Amy in Leeds. But what we tend to hear from people in the learning sets and anchor exchanges that we run is organizations that have done brilliant work by engaging with the local community to agree on their priorities. So you hear them saying things like, together with the local community, we've agreed that this should be the priority, or we've heard this, and as a result, our priorities are going to be this. we see some fantastic examples of anchor organizations like local authorities or NHS trusts or housing associations or universities or museums developing really close partnerships with VCSE organizations, voluntary sector organizations, community groups, and local businesses, and creating anchor initiatives that are really rooted in the local community and the local economy. So they're developing much closer partnerships, and they will often talk about those partnerships will often be well resourced. They'll be meeting regularly. There'll be a kind of very active space where the anchor work is being informed and directed. And we also often hear anchor organizations talking about opening up their assets. So in the very broadest sense, not just their physical estate, but all of the resources and assets they have in an area. So becoming much more externally facing and trying to make themselves much more accessible to the local community. So we've heard some brilliant examples through some of the learning sets, and we're going to share some resources with you at the end of today. But I'm most excited about bringing in some of the live examples from Althea and Amy. So we are welcoming Amy from Leeds City Council. Leeds, as some of you may know, are doing really brilliant work, both individually as anchor organizations within the city, but also have a fascinating anchor network, which is connecting anchors with communities and community organizations and increasingly businesses. So Amy's responsible for the Leeds business anchors and helped to establish the network in 2023. We've all been really, really interested in this because it's one of the first business anchor networks in the UK. Lots to learn from Leeds. Really excited about hearing about how that's been going, Amy. And Althea, lovely to see you here, Althea. Althea's been involved in Hound for a long time. Whipps Cross Hospital in London. Althea is the head of community participation there. And so this is the kind of work you're doing day in and day out, Althea, engaging people. And there's been a big redevelopment in the hospital site as well, which is kind of a very interesting program to work with communities on. So excited to hear about how that's been going.